All right. Well, Chris, I guess this is the first time we're meeting since the Charlie Kirk event that we
It
how
is.
how many days ago was that now?
It was on the 10th, so exactly a week ago.
Yeah. Um I don't know about you, but I have been, not that it matters how I feel, it's definitely not about me, but I've definitely been very displeased with how people have been reacting to this. I don't know how you
No,
feel about
without question. It's definitely done both of the things that it normally does and brought out the best of humanity and also the worst. Um, I know you've heard about several high profile cases where people were fired for their online responses to what happened. Uh, and was just talking to my family just a few days ago and just reminded them that of the people, and there are a large amount that have been fired for their responses. There's many, many more that agree with them that just didn't post anything online.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's just a fraction of the people that agree with what happened. And it's pitiful. I hate it. I hate that uh, we've come to this in our nation to where you truly have to worry about losing your life for expressing an opinion. Um, and it truly is an inability of the left to counter some of the arguments of the right. And when they reach a point, now they're willing to kill you if they can't counter your argument. And, I don't know where we go as a society from here.
Yeah. I I mean, you think about it, and this is just off the heels of Luigi Mangione, I think was his
Hmm.
name, the guy that killed the United Healthcare CEO. You know, people have acted like he's a hero, and here we have, it seems like since Charlie Kirk's death. I mean, you have some people that are saying good things about him, but you have a whole lot of people that are seem to be happy that he's gone,
Sure, sure.
and that man, it's made me really feel. n- I always try to feel empathy for everybody, but the empathy that I feel for his wife and children, I don't know. You just can't imagine what they're going through.
You know, we know about, and I apologize, I've got a little cough this morning. You think about the people who, or the person who carried this out. It could have been anybody because there apparently were many more who would have been willing to do it had they had an opportunity. But the person who carried this out really, I don't know if it's that people don't think of the consequences of what they do. They just lash out without really thinking about what's going on, what they're doing, thinking about the consequences. But it's either that I like to think that they don't think about it, because the alternative is they think about the consequences of what they're doing, think about the people that they're affecting, and just don't care.
Mm.
And, you know, I'm a pretty reasonable, rational person, but it's hard to wrap your mind around this. It has really challenged me in my thinking as far as I've had to really try hard. I've never had to do this in my life, and it's getting harder. Maybe my age, maybe getting older, but it's really hard to have patience with people on the other side, uh, because I legitimately don't know. When I asked that a minute ago, I truly don't know what the answer is as far as where we go from here. Uh, it seems like unless you're just willing to put up with these things, that there's no solution.
Yeah, I, you know, uh, even though yeah, this appears to be somebody left wing that did this, I am. and I'm don't get me wrong, I'm typically more annoyed with left-leaning media than I am right-leaning media, but both, you know, all the big media companies, I feel like, bear some responsibility for this.
Sure,
For I mean, it seems like for years now, big media has been creating an environment of hatred and hostility,
sure.
and, they might not have pulled the trigger, but I feel like some of this falls on them. That's
I do too. In fact, there's a quote, and I'm gonna see if I can pull it up, where Nancy Pelosi was talking about, did she feel any responsibility, when people took quotes, uh, out of not really out of context, but they took quotes to heart from political figures. Uh, and she made the statement, I haven't been able to pull it up yet. Just one second. Let me see. No, I can't pull it up yet. But anyway, she made the statement that that they couldn't help how a few crazies out there took their quotes and used them for violence. They that they couldn't help it if people who uh, used their comments to incite violence, they couldn't help how they took it.
she actually said that?
She actually made that statement,
Oh,
and that is definitely not taking responsibility for what you say. Now, and again, we all know what she would say and how they would take it if this had been in reverse. They would have been all over uh, the TV talking about how our side didn't take responsibility. We need to be careful what we say, that kind of thing. It's just a circle of politics.
yeah.
And
I mean, I don't get me wrong, I certainly still believe in free speech and freedom of the press, but, you know, I guess we're experiencing some severe problems. Not that we haven't always had these problems, but now we're experiencing problems where people just abuse their freedom of speech and use it to create hostility and hatred, like I was saying earlier.
this was this month, so this would have been a little bit after during a September 25th, September 2025 appearance following the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi stated that political leaders cannot be held accountable for how their words are interpreted by others,
Mm,
which is exactly the opposite of uh, what they would be telling us otherwise was it's our side. The exact quote was, "People don't have any intention." I'm sorry. People don't have any intention of saying something that's going to lead to something. We can't take responsibility for the minds that are out there and how they hear it.
yeah.
That was her exact quote. Now, if you want to talk about
I mean, ultimately, that just tells you exactly how politicians see the world as rules for me and not for thee. I mean,
absolutely,
that's how they see everything.
our politicians today are the modern day Pharisees. That's what they are. And and these are supposed to be our brightest minds. They're supposed to be uh they're supposed to be the people who are taking care of our nation. They're supposed to be the rational people from the other side. Now, Kevin, I told you this off camera, and I'm going to say it on camera. Uh, all of my thoughts don't speak for Divine Economy Podcast, but I'll tell you this is my personal opinion. Uh, and anybody who wants to disagree with me, you can comment. And if you like and subscribe, I'll comment back. Uh, I personally do not believe that if you're on the left, if you're a Democrat these days, that you can simultaneously call yourself a follower of Christ. I do not believe that you can be a supporter of that side and call yourself a Christian. That's just my opinion. There's too many things that are against Christ, against the teachings of the Bible, that if you say you support, you might as well say, I'm against Christ. And that's just my feelings on it. It's not that I have been unwilling to say that before, but, especially after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, uh, I think the other side has just proven that, and we're not even talking about just morality. We're talking about people who can't even give the common respect that you would give a dog.
Yeah.
Uh, there are many animals that people have that tear their house up, mess all over the place, tear up equipment they have and that kind of thing, and they're nicer to them than they would have been to Charlie Kirk, and our world is just upside down.
Yeah. And it disturbs me that people keep using it's like anybody that even leans right, people use the word fascist and so on, and I'm like, to me, it sounds like you're trying to turn those terms, like, to the other side when really those terms would describe you. Because I mean, we're seeing some people get fired for saying negative things about Charlie Kirk, but um, if I'm not mistaken, the left was the first to start doing that.
Sure,
I can't. I guess I don't know if it was COVID or what, but I remember not too long ago, if anybody spoke out about against what the left was doing, people were getting fired for that.
that's right.
So again, I try to be in the middle and not pick sides, but if somebody were to ask me and force me to put my life on what I was saying, I would say the left leans more fascist right now than the right does. If you put a gun in my head or something, that's my perspective. And as far as the left, whether it is or isn't compatible with Christianity, you certainly have to look at some of the views and question them. I know that people really do not like to talk about things like abortion but that is one, and don't get me wrong, there's others that are very, I think, incompatible with being a follower of Christ, but killing any life to me is if 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 that's not incompatible, then I don't know what is. Like I know that there are some circumstances where, a mother's life may be at risk. I can maybe understand that a little bit, but ultimately just just because you don't want to take responsibility for your choices, to take a life is, to me, unjust and a sin for sure.
Absolutely.
Um and then, hookup culture. Hookup culture's always been a thing, but it seems like it's only gotten worse over time. So I think I and don't think that I'm trying to beat up on single parents here. I know that you guys do the best that you can. And I'm not a parent, so this is, you know, I don't know what it's like to be a parent, but I know that God designed families to have two parents.
Amen.
I'll just say that. And I think that children raised with either missing a mother or missing a father, they're not getting everything that they need to be complete. I'll just put it that way.
Sure.
Um,
Well, the Bible describes, and again, if you disagree with this comment, like and subscribe and comment. It'll be all right. Uh, the Bible describes children in the Bible who do not have a father as orphans. That's not minimizing the importance of a mother. That's not minimizing the effort that's put in by a single parent. However, the Bible describes children who do not have a father as an orphan. And that shows the tremendous importance that it puts on having a father in the house to guide the family and that's God's design. That's the way it should be. Um, and for God to describe it that way, we need to take note of that.
Yeah. Well, and God, another thing to me that's telling is the Bible often refers to God as Father.
That's right.
So you can tell that he has a strong reverence for fathers. And I mean mothers too. And that's why,
It's
it's
not about importance, it's about role.
yeah.
It's about the role that that person plays.
Yep. You take a piece out and it throws the whole thing off
That's right.
balance. Um it's very much a design in my opinion.
Sure.
Um
The breakdown of the traditional nuclear family in our nation has played the biggest role in the downfall of the morality of our society. Uh, the downfall of morality and the downfall of morality in our society is the reason that our nation is in the state that it's in today.
yeah. Yep. You need that complete family unit and you know, even if you don't have or even if you do have a complete family, if that family is not ever opening a Bible and reading scripture, then what they think is moral still may not be. So
And you think about that, we get our morality from God. Those of us who call ourselves Christians, we get our morality from God from the Bible. I want to know, if you can make the argument, I don't think that you can, but if you can make the argument that you're able to live your life without religion, I want you to tell me where you get your set of standards from. If you're not going by the Bible, if you're not going by God, if where do you get your standards from? Because I'll tell you, those who don't get their standards from God, they're the reason our country's headed in the direction it's heading.
Mhm.
When a man can say, I disagree with what you're saying, and it's so bad that I'm going to kill you for it. Where did you get those standards from? Where did you get that from?
That's man's standard. And that you remember I almost want to say it was not long after we first met. Do you remember what you told me as far as the Bible versus man, like what the perspective was? I think you told me everything is just about the complete opposite of what a human would do.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Bible, what Jesus taught in the scriptures most of the time was complete 180 degrees different than what the world teaches you. That's correct.
Yep.
Jesus taught that money and possessions were something that should be looked down upon and that caring for others should be at the top of our list.
Mhm.
He taught us to hate our enemies. Hello? Taught us to hate our enemies. I'm sorry.
Love
Hate our enemies.
you're
Taught us
you're
taught us
being
to
a human.
taught us to love our enemies. Our
Yeah.
fellow man teaches us to hate our enemies. Taught us to love our enemies and do good for them. That goes directly against what our natural inclination is to do.
Yeah.
If somebody strikes out at us, what's our inclination to do? Strike out at them.
Yep.
If somebody makes us mad, what is our natural inclination? To get even with them, right?
Mhm.
And Jesus teaches us the exact opposite. We're supposed to love those who do love those who do evil to us, pray for them, do good to them. Jesus taught us. Uh, is that a hard thing to do? Yes. We have to train ourselves. We have to renew our mind over to loving our fellow man like Jesus taught us. And again, I ask you, uh, you can't just have a sense of morality that says, uh, I think this is the right thing to do. Why do you think it's the right thing to do? I just do. But
Yep.
what kind of standard is that? That just teaches everybody to do whatever they feel like is the best thing to do. We can't live in a society that way.
Yep. What that does is it turns everybody in the world into, and this word has become popular, a narcissist. That really, if everybody lived that way and we were all only out for ourselves, we would absolutely all be complete narcissists and
Correct.
we'd be killing each other off
Amen.
daily. And I mean, to some extent that is happening. I mean, I follow another channel. I think it's called Police Activity, and they get a ton of views. And I want to say that they still have not been able to get monetized because they're always showing super violent altercations between police and regular people. And I could almost swear that it used to be that there was a new video every week or every other week, and now there's a new video like every day, and sometimes multiple a day. And these are people pulling out pistols, shotguns, rifles on law enforcement officers. I mean,
Sure.
it's mind blowing because some part of you has to understand that when you do that, even if you're letting your anger take over, I mean, if there's, he's going to have backup. I don't, I know we have some degree of a mental health problem in this country, but I don't know. It's concerning. I'm starting to wonder.
Well, again, you just think about the mentality it takes. I mean, the natural, I mean, the rational person doesn't think, "Hey, if I get pulled over today, I'm so angry. If I get pulled over today, I'm gonna pull this gun out on a cop." Who thinks like that? What rational person thinks that that's the best thing to do? I think I really who thinks that they don't have any options other than to pull out a gun on a guy? Who thinks that?
Apparently, more and more. That's the concerning thing is
Yes.
it seems like it's becoming less rare and more common.
It just shows, for a while we've been headed in this direction. We've been getting, as a society, more and more and more depraved, more and more willing to commit violent acts. And when something like this happens last week, it sheds a spotlight right on it for everyone to see. Uh, and we forget how evil our fellow man is until something like this happens and you see the glee and the laughter and the praise from the other side who who supports these kinds of actions. And not only are they not disappointed that it happened, they praise it. They
Mhm.
praise it.
There are still people that say that humans are not inherently evil, and I would say I now strongly disagree.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we are absolute garbage unless we have God. And I mean, I you can take offense to that if you want if you want to, but I just think it's the truth. If you don't have God in your life, even if you think you're a good person, you're a filthy rag, you know.
Sure.
And speaking of discipline, I can't remember the exact scripture, but I believe Paul told us, "I die daily," which is another example of what we are supposed to do. And I think a part of dying daily is getting control of yourself and not deciding to murder somebody because you don't like what they said.
You're
Um,
crazy.
yeah, dying to yourself is loving others, not hating others. Um, and don't get me wrong, there are people on the right as well as the left that show hatred and towards others, but it's just baffling to me how far we've fallen lately.
Sure. Case in point, and I think I told you about this the other day, but I'm going to mention it. There's a guy named Steve Bennell. His screen name is Destiny. Has a huge following. He has nearly 900,000 followers on YouTube. And I don't know how many followers on the other different platforms, but he has a huge liberal following. He was a guest panelist on Piers Morgan's show the other day on Uncensored with about 4 other people. And he refused to condemn the shooting of Charlie Kirk. And uh, he suggested that conservatives were to blame for the current political climate right now, and said that other people in the United States needed to be, quote, afraid of getting killed when they go to events, unquote, in order to pressure their leaders to de-escalate tensions. He said this on Open TV. This guy is still platformed on YouTube. He still has a channel, even when he's made statements like that support violence and encourage violence. He's still platformed. Now, uh, Kevin, you tell me, if there was a conservative activist who made the same statement about the other side, would they still be platformed?
Not only would they not be platformed, they'd be either getting litigated and sued or terminated or potentially even incarcerated, in
Now,
my opinion.
and if we were in court, I would say I rest my case.
Yeah.
There's obviously a double standard in our society, especially in media. And if you can't see that the thinking in the media leans left, then I don't know what else I could put out there for you to see.
Yeah, speaking of which, and I wanted to say this earlier and I'm gonna say it now. And sorry, David, I like you. I still consider you a friend, but David said the other day something about that he felt that and I think he said it while we were recording, that he felt that most media leaned right, and I strongly disagree with that.
Most media ownership, he said.
Yeah, most media. And from what and as a matter of fact, part of the reason you see me in a different view today is because I've been doing some research, and I pulled up my screen and my computer to start digging into who owns some of these large media corporations. And as far as I can tell, all of these folks are left leaning. I mean,
If you could,
almost all of them, not
that's
maybe
right.
not 100%,
You
but
could make the argument at one time, uh, that News Corp that produces Fox, uh, was a right-leaning owner, okay? Now his children are not, and they actually run the company now.
mhm.
Um, and I would challenge that assertion. I think the exact assertion was that conservative billionaires were the ones who own those media companies, and I disagree too.
Yeah, I would say maybe it's something like 80-20 or 85-15 or something like that. I mean,
I
it's
think you're being generous
yeah.
to
Yeah,
the
that's being conservative. Or I mean, not
it's being conservative on the side that you believe that there's 20% ownership by conservatives. I
yeah,
disagree. I
yeah,
don't think there's that much, but
yeah. No, there may not be. And that's taking into account worldwide, so that's not just talking about the
well, I
United
mean,
States.
I tell you what, let's just talk about the ones we can name off the top of our head. Instagram and Facebook, they're owned by Zuckerberg.
Google, YouTube,
He's a liberal. The largest search engine in the world is owned by Google. They're all liberals.
Microsoft, which owns the other largest search engine.
Microsoft, who at one time had an 80% market share of all the business computers in the world, they're liberal. In fact, Bill Gates has gone on record as saying that he thinks we need to reduce our population.
Yeah.
That's not a conservative idea.
And extremely
Uh,
concerning considering that he owns a lot of farmland.
right.
Not that he's the only billionaire that I understand owns a lot of it, but if you think that humans are a plague on planet Earth and you have a bunch of farmland, that concerns me a little bit.
Right. CNN, owned by liberals. Uh, NBC, the parent or Paramount, the company that owns NBC, and uh, at least for a little while longer, MSNBC, uh, they're liberal. ABC, liberal. I mean, they're all. I honestly can't think. I mean, can you name a major media corporation that's owned by a conservative?
The only ones that pop right off my head are, I would say it. Yeah, I think you're right that the children are probably more left leaning now, but Fox, New York Post, I mean, right off the top of my head, those are the only two that those are the only two that I can't even.
Washington Post is owned by Jeff
Yeah, they're
Bezos
left for sure.
from Amazon fame. They're left leaning. Uh, uh, I would say, of course, that the Daily Wire They're
Yeah.
conservative, but they're small potatoes compared to these other people. Glenn Beck's Blaze is right lean, of course, and they're still small potatoes compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
Uh,
I I mean, I'm sure plenty of people would disagree with me on this. I like Reuters, not and that they're left leaning, don't get me wrong, but I feel like at least Reuters is maybe a little bit more center left as opposed to far left. But now that being said, I noticed that most of the people that read them and view them were, you know, in on this thing of I'm glad Charlie Kirk's dead. And
sure.
so, I mean, NBC, ABC, CNN. As a matter of fact, I have CNN's parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery, pulled up right now. And this may get me in trouble, but I don't care. I was going to let you guys know who some of the largest owners of this company are because to be completely honest, I'm kind of sick of seeing what I'm seeing lately. So I'm going to try to be and all this is public information, so I'm not showing you anything that you wouldn't be able to access. I'm using this stock screener called Simply Wall Street, and it says that the Vanguard Group owns 10.6% of Warner Brothers, which is the parent company of CNN, as I understand it. And guess who is second place in ownership, if you had to guess?
CNN?
Huh? Well, Warner Brothers, which is the parent company of CNN,
I don't know who.
BlackRock.
Well, how about that?
Yeah. Vanguard number 1, BlackRock number 2, State Street Global is 3rd, and then it's Harris Associates, Advanced Publications. Anyway, most of these top owners are big institutional corporations, and my understanding is the way that Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street Global work is that they invest money for the very wealthy. So, like, if you're a multimillionaire or billionaire, even though it shows them as having this ownership, really they own it on behalf of their big name clients is how it works as I understand it. But anyway, people have been complaining about BlackRock for a long time now, and I don't know. To me, this goes to show you some of the danger of only caring about profit and nothing else. I think that's a big part of our problem in this nation. And don't get me wrong, you want to be able to profit, but profit cannot be the only thing that you care about. Um,
Just like we talked about in the past about investing, if you truly care about morality and that's your number one issue. Now, granted, I know for a lot of people it's not. I get that. But if your morality care, if you care about morality, you care about who you invest with. And just like you have told us before, there were certain companies that morally wise, you just couldn't let yourself invest in. And I'm the same way. Uh, you have to look at things like this when you consider investing. It's not about just making money. That can't be your main priority if you care about morals. It can't be.
Speaking of which, do I have my phone by me? Ryan told me a verse the other day that I want to quote. Let me see if I still have it. Oh, and guys, before I continue, I just want to say that this podcast is brought to you in part by Riverside. I highly encourage you to check them out. You'll just about always see a link to their page on my content, so I'll put one either in the comments or the description. Um, and also, as Chris was saying earlier, if you enjoy our content, likes and subscribes and comments help us out a lot and are really important. So if you would, please just take a moment and do that. But that being said, what I was talking about a minute ago of scripture that Ryan shared with me is Psalm 62:10, and it says, "If riches increase, do not set your heart on them." So that verse right there is telling you that. I mean, if you read the Bible, you know without a doubt that God does not like money. Like there's no question that God and it, well, it's not so much that he doesn't like money itself, it's that he doesn't like how easy it is for us to give in to our greed. He understands that to us, money is a very hard thing to resist. Or it's hard to resist being greedy and irresponsible with the money that you have.
That's right.
Um, so yeah, I thought that's you always hear people talking about the love of money is the root of all evil, but that's another good verse that you don't hear about quite as often is if your wealth does increase, that's not where your heart should be.
Amen.
That's a very important verse.
And that's where, especially when you see it increase, that's where people start to pay it more attention and it
Mhm.
becomes more important to them. Um, and again, it's not it's not people who have a lot of money who can't be Christians. It's if they put that over God.
Yeah. It goes back to the idolatry conversation, I guess, where which is anything that becomes your top priority over God becomes your God, and that is, in my opinion, therefore idolatry. So we need to be very careful to not place anything above God in importance, and that includes even your own family. I think a lot of people don't realize that. I know people that are reading their Bible all the time understand that, but I think a lot of folks that call themselves followers of Christ, but maybe don't read the Bible as much as they should, are probably under the impression that it's okay to love your family more than God, but that's not okay. There's another verse that, and I can't think of what it is off the top of my head, but I believe it says something along the lines of your love for your family should be hatred compared to your love of God,
That's right.
which is a very strong stance.
That's right.
And it's not, don't get me wrong, it's not saying that you should hate your family, your parents, whatever. It's just saying that, who was it that was it Moses that God asked to take his son to
Abraham.
Abraham?
Hmm.
Abraham was asked by God in the Old Testament, I believe, to take his son and sacrifice him.
That's right.
And he was willing to go through with that. And God, I believe, stopped him at the last moment and
Uh,
told him no.
He was testing Abraham to see where his loyalty lay. And he was concerned that Isaac had taken his place in Abraham's heart, and he tested him. And Abraham passed the test. Um, and I've made this statement before with my other classes that I teach and at church. If you're a true follower of Christ, you can't have anything in your heart that you would be unwilling to give up if the Lord were to require it from you. Uh, and there can be nothing that you're unwilling to take on if the Lord asks you to. He has to be number one in your life, or you have an idol,
Hmm.
and or you have another god before Him. Both of those are breaking one of the 10 Commandments. Uh, and to your point about loving your family, one of the 10 Commandments is to honor your father and mother. So that quote from Jesus simply means where it says that we have to hate our father, mother, sister, brother, our own life to be his disciple. That means that we must prefer him so much that our preference for others seems like hate
Yeah.
in our devotion to God. That's all that means.
Yep. Which, like I said, that is very strong wording, and
Amen.
you can't take that. One thing that I love about the Bible, and we still try to do it anyway, we still try to take things out of context and be like, no, he didn't mean this, he didn't mean that. But God is not unclear in what he said. I mean, if you ask me, for the most part, God is very direct in what he
And don't
says.
get us wrong, sometimes it takes some study
Yeah.
to
I
get
mean,
to the
it's,
point of what is being said there because we're 2,000 years or
yeah.
more removed from when it was written. However, the true meaning is there.
Yeah. The big problem, and we were talking about this earlier, and I think people would agree, is that Aramaic, Greek, and Hebrew, and what other whatever other past languages were originally used are a whole lot different from the English language. One word could potentially mean one, two, three, four, five different things all at
Mhm.
once. So I don't know. Words have power now, but it seems like words were a little more powerful back then,
That's
if you
right.
ask me.
Had deeper meaning for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And another example of that, and this is just me doing some research on my own, so I could be right or wrong on this, but I believe I ran across something not too long ago. You know how at some point the Bible describes uh, a woman as being or a wife as being a helper?
Mhm.
Well, I want to say the original word for that was like ezer kenegdo, which apparently has a whole much deeper meaning than we understand. Because for us, helper just means somebody to assist you. But
Sure.
my understanding is that ezer kenegdo word means like tell somebody to tell you when you're doing right and tell you when you're. I mean, it's like a much more serious role than what we understand from a helper.
Yeah, people a lot of words in the West have become watered down. They have become really weak. Uh, for instance, you look at America, and the use of the word love, okay? People here will tell you that they love chicken nuggets,
Yeah,
all right? Now, I'm not sure that that's the proper word to describe how much you like chicken nuggets, right?
yeah,
Love should not be the word we use for that. Uh, uh,
yeah. That's true.
there's just many things that have just become so watered down that they've really lost the weight of the meaning of it.
Or he or she's a hero for
Right, right.
hero is a great example of one that's been watered down.
Right.
Just about anybody can be called a hero now.
Yeah, people being called heroes because they go to work.
Yeah,
I mean, but,
you're doing what you're supposed to be
I
doing.
I
Okay.
I appreciate hard workers and our first responders and those kind of things, as much as anybody else, but please, people, let's not oversaturate and water down the word.
Yeah. And then speaking of love, there was what agape.
Mhm,
I'm assuming that was a Greek. I think that was a Greek
mhm.
word, but so they had different levels
They
of
had at
love.
least 3 different words that referred to a type of love. Yes.
Yeah. So just much deeper meaning that we've lost some of that, unfortunately. I wish that we could have a big team of people go back and I don't know, maybe at some point somebody will figure out how to get a team together and do a full and good. I don't know. I mean, obviously you have multiple Bible versions that have been translated into English, but you would think it being 2025 now, maybe we could.
Well, one of the different ways, that the left especially is using words to justify things is the left will actually tell you that certain words or certain ideas are actual violence against people.
Yeah.
That's the way they justify things like happened last week.
Mhm.
If you can convince the public that if I say certain words, that's violence, well, then what does that condone? That condones actual violence in response to somebody's words. And, again, whoever's out there who is impressionable, please understand words are not violence.
Yeah.
Words, different opinions are not violence. Actual violence is violence.
Yeah. Now, words like we were talking about earlier, words can certainly lead to violence, but yeah, a word you can't substitute word for violence. That's for sure. Um, hey, speaking since we're talking about Charlie Kirk again, um, Jack, how, if you don't mind saying, how old are you?
25.
25. So, and also, if you don't mind me asking, what are your thoughts and perspective on what's happening?
First, were you aware of Charlie Kirk before this happened?
Yeah, well, I've been aware for a couple of years now. I was I'd say about 5 years ago is the first time I've really like knew who he was. But
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure that I feel like that was probably the same for most of us. It's like he only recently became really big or really famous, but
Mhm.
I had a feeling you knew him and had some thoughts because I figured you were, I don't know, somewhere around his age, which I guess, you're 25, I'm 36, so and he was 31, so I guess he was sort of in the middle.
Yeah, kinda split between us.
Mhm. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just think it's awful. What y'all were talking about just, people, like, in, like, the culture having us just so divided, that, like, someone, like, just disagreeing like he did with what people say could cause all of that violence, it's just, it's, like, sickening.
Yeah, no, I agree. I I definitely think it's crazy that I mean, the founding of this country was supposed to be about us being able to have verbal disagreements without extreme things like this happening.
Mhm.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's what a free society is supposed to be. So,
Yeah, and, like, I would say up till 2019, I was very much, like, um, hard-nosed conservative, like, I would agree with everything that he and some other people said. Recently, I really wouldn't say that I would, but that doesn't make me, like I don't understand how people could be happy about this.
yeah,
Like, he's a human being. He's a thought leader. He's a Christian.
yeah,
Respect.
yeah. I don't know. It's we've been sitting here talking about it for a while, but I still, even with all this conversation that we're having, I still feel like I'm at a loss. I just don't understand. Um, and I will say this, even though Charlie Kirk's getting all of this attention, we should also feel this way about any and every death or mass death incident, if you know where I'm going with that, I'm talking about Gaza. Hopefully this doesn't get me in trouble, but I mean, if we're so
I don't
upset,
think Netanyahu's gonna come look for you, but
yeah, if we're so butthurt and upset about Charlie Kirk, which don't get me wrong, I am, why are we also not butthurt and upset about the violence that's happening to normal everyday people? I
sure,
mean,
that's right.
we need
And that's
to,
some of the things at the end that he was, trying to bring note to as well.
yeah. And as a matter of
Hopefully.
fact, speaking of Netanyahu, and folks, uh, I'm, it's a minor percentage, but I'm a Sephardic Jew, technically. That's part of the reason why, and even if something makes me uncomfortable, I try to talk about it anyway. So that stuff makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but where was I going with this? Oh, speaking of Netanyahu, he is actually listed now as basically an international criminal.
Hmm.
I forget what
Yeah.
list he's on, but he's on a literal list that
Like,
doesn't.
for war crimes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
he's on an actual legitimate list now for
Mm.
war crimes.
One good thing, and I'm not, this is one of those things that normally happens in the wake of something like this. Some good that came from this, Charlie Kirk's, organization Turning Point, where you could have a chapter, at your school. Since his death, it was a week ago, there have been 54,000, as of today, 54,000 requests for new chapters, around the nation, and that's a huge good that came from this. His ideals will be spread around if they're able to get those started in 54,000 new places
Wait, new chapters of what now?
of
Say that
of
again?
of Turning Point that you
Oh,
can
okay.
of a chapter that you can start at your school.
Yeah.
Just incredible. They also a lot of people don't realize what kind of organization they were. They were huge. They were one of the biggest organizations, political organizations, in the nation. They've taken in, uh, just in the last couple of years, over $200 million, and
Jeez.
and that's that's a lot of political power and clout that you can spread around.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a feeling especially when I started, I knew that there were going to be a lot of reactions and a lot of talk following Charlie's death, but what I did not expect was to see it be as worldwide as it has been. Like Chris, the other day, you were showing me that video of a guy in Africa that was talking. I mean, I don't know. I know Africa's a big continent. I don't know what country specifically he was in, but I mean, this was being talked about all over the
That's right.
or it still is being talked
Look,
about all over the world.
there were vigils of appreciation for him in South Korea, Australia, an enormous one in London. Uh, and we forget that. And I have a tendency. I told you this in one of our earlier broadcasts. I have a tendency to have tunnel vision and just think about America. And what we don't realize is many of the other nations are watching what goes on here. I had no idea. I had no idea that outside of the United States, other than London, because I've seen Charlie Kirk debate in London, where they in Oxford when they had some of the school debates. Had no idea that anybody outside of America would even know or care who Charlie Kirk was, but they did. This
Mhm.
was, everything that we do here in America is under a microscope for the whole world to see.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it used to, not that it was ever all positive, but you know, I feel like things have changed a little bit. Whereas people still look to us and look up to us a little bit, but it's changed now because now a lot of the world, I think, as far as I can tell, views the United States as being a nation in moral decline, and it burns me up because they're not wrong.
That's right.
They're not wrong.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah, when other countries are sending missionaries here, there's a problem.
yeah, we we all, if we want to call ourselves followers of Christ, we all bear responsibility for continuing to disciple more people and help people understand what real morals and ethics are.
Well, it lets you understand and know how morally bankrupt our institutions of higher learning are. Uh, I hate to say this, but it's just the truth. So I'm going to. A lot of the kids who go to college are being radicalized in our own United States college institutions. This is basically what we learned happened to Charlie Kirk shooter. He came from a conservative family and went to college for less than a year and turned into an Antifa supporter, transgender supporter from a conservative family.
Hmm.
Uh, guys, he didn't get this from his family. He got it from college.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long at all of a radical left professor to get into your head and make you think things that aren't true. Look, people who are just coming out of high school are very impressionable, and they will listen to these professors who tell them that America's a bad place, violent words are violence, you should be fighting against these people. They will listen to that.
Mhm. Yeah, you know, I went to college and got a degree, but I certainly can see how easy it would be for somebody to be molded and pointed in a different direction than they were when they came.
Very immoral direction.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, don't get me wrong, like education can be a great thing, but if it corrupts your morals, there's a big problem there.
Amen.
Education is good, but it can't lead you down a path of evil. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of receiving an education in the first place. Um, and
And let's look at it this way, just from my standpoint. If you knew you were going to get a tremendous education, even a tremendous education, but it was going to corrupt your morals, what decision should you make? I would go without the education.
Yeah.
If your morals mean anything to you, you've got to keep them. They have to be first.
Well, people, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everybody should do this in mass because we do still need college graduates, but I think people tend to take for granted and lose perspective of the fact that you can educate yourself without having a professor or an institution there to watch over you and make sure you're doing certain assignments. I mean, the whole reason that I know what I do about investing in the stock market now is because I taught myself all this stuff over, I don't know, 30,000 hours at least, maybe more now, but
Let's just look at our example. Let's look at Charlie Kirk. Charlie
I
Kirk didn't go to college. He
no,
created an empire
yeah,
just from reading books.
yep,
Uh, it, granted, I know that he's the exception to a rule. However, it's possible to be done without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars.
yeah, it all, everything, just like everything else in life, it all comes down to discipline.
That's right.
How disciplined can you be?
And most people don't have it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're seeing, unfortunately, a lot of evidence of that now. So, um, hey, speaking of morals and ethics, um, would you mind telling us a little bit about, I think it was Exodus 20 and the 10 commandments? Or I can pull it up. See. Give me just a second. I'll pull it up on the screen too. I think it was Exodus 20. It always wants to put us on NIV. Go to ESV maybe. Yes.
Well, some people only listen to God's version, the KJV. So
Yeah. Well, I could do, maybe I should do New King James.
you're good.
I do like King James and New King James.
It's beautiful language. It is. However, it's no more special than any other version.
Uh,
Leave a comment.
all right. So do you want to read it off or you want me to?
Exodus 20, begin at the beginning.
Yeah.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands, to those who love me and who keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger, who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servants, nor his female servants, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is your neighbor's.
All right, let's stop right there. There's a whole lot of weight just in that right there.
Sure.
Now, don't get
and this is the long version
yeah.
of which is the long version of the 10 Commandments.
You know, I think we've talked about before, this is, this part of the Bible is the old covenant and you've got the new covenant starting with Matthew. But even though this is the old covenant, I've always been taught that the 10 commandments still carry all the weight that they used to, the 10 commandments are one thing that I still believe that God holds in high esteem. Do you disagree?
I do, with the exception of one. I do believe that uh, the Sabbath day is one of the ritualistic
Yeah.
commandments that we're no longer held to as a standard that we have to adhere to. All the
Doesn't it?
rest are basically moral commandments. This is
Yeah.
more of a ritualistic commandment here.
Doesn't it say, and I could be wrong about this might be why some people say don't watch stuff like TV shows and stuff, but isn't there another scripture that says, um, man was not made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath for man?
That's right.
Where is that? What book is that?
Uh,
You know?
Actually, I'll look that up and see where that is.
But yeah, so I agree with you on that. I just, yeah, but I mean, thou shalt not murder. I can guarantee you that God still cares about that, you know?
Absolutely. Well, that's a
Um,
moral commandment. That's a
yeah,
moral law. When it comes to our behavior or everyday behavior, the moral laws still stand true. Now, that's one of the things that people will argue with you against. You know, some people will tell you that because we're living in a new covenant, we're not held to any standard. You know, that you don't have to obey any of those commandments. And that's just untrue. The ritualistic, the uh, uh, performative commandments that there were, we're no longer held to that standard that was in the Mosaic law, but the moral law that was there, we are most definitely held to.
yeah. We don't have to worry about putting animals on an altar and butchering them because Jesus served as, the ultimate sacrifice. So thankfully, a lot of those things have gone away. But
It's in Mark chapter 2, verse 27. Jesus says the Sabbath was made for man, not the man for Sabbath. This was spoken
yeah,
in response to a criticism by the Pharisees about his disciples plucking grain on the Sabbath.
hmm
This is one of those things that um, it's one of those hypocritical burdens that the Pharisees put on the people uh, that went above and beyond and really overboard on the Mosaic law. Uh, they said you shouldn't work on the Sabbath. Okay, that's one thing. I get that.
hmm
They considered if you were walking through a field and got hungry and plucked the grain off of a wheat stalk to eat it, you were working.
yeah, that was labor.
So that
Yeah,
was putting a bigger burden on the people than Moses had put on them, and Jesus was calling them out for that.
yep. That was, in my opinion, when Jesus started having those "woe to you"
That's
type
right.
tones and
That's right.
conversations. You
And
place
keep in,
burdens on people that are heavy to bear,
and
which
keep in mind, I'm not comparing Charlie Kirk to Jesus. However, when you start uh, criticizing those, when you start criticizing people for their behavior, that puts you in the crosshairs.
yep. Um, hey Jack, where are we on time?
Hour 4.
Hour 4. Okay. Uh, well, I'll just say again that I hope things get better. I'm pretty disappointed in where we are as far as morals and ethics, specifically around violence. Uh, I'm
America is in a box of tinder right now, and there's people all around playing with fire. And I just, uh, Kevin, something could happen right now, and it would tip the scales in a bad way for our country. We all need to be in prayer for it.
I agree. Um, but yeah, does anybody have anything else? Well, again, I appreciate you guys listening and watching. And like we said earlier, if you enjoy this, give us a like and a sub and a comment. But yeah, hope everybody has a good week. I think that's going to do it for us today. So thanks, Jack and Chris.